Hello, little people on my monitor. Sorry about the lack of uploads. There's currently super loud construction going on right next to my room, which you'll actually probably hear slightly throughout my video, but it shouldn't be that noticeable. And I spent a lot of time working on these new stills, yay! Figured I need a more expressive little goober for the future. But anyways, onto the video. Like many things, the surface of a topic can seem pretty simple and straightforward. This is the case with the many parallel universes, or anteverses, seen in Abiotic Factor, which our scientists travel to with portals called perforations, many of which serve the simple purpose of giving you a source of renewable resources in-game, or no purpose at all. I'm looking at you, Far Garden. But actually taking a closer look at the backstory of these seemingly simple settings paints a really interesting picture about the caliber of research being done at the gate facilities and how important this technology can be for humanity. I'll go through all of the anteverses seen in-game and explain the lore, origin, and relevant immurement subjects, as well as all of the 20 or so anteverses mentioned in emails but not seen in-game. As a side note and a shameless plug, I cover a lot of the finer details about some immurement subjects and the big anteverses in my other long-form video, which I definitely recommend watching if you haven't already. But anyways, let's begin. Anteverse I is Gate's controversial first step into the Anteverse technology. I say controversial because frankly it was a disaster. The initial perforation opened to this Anteverse at the Crown facility in the town of Flathill. It allowed hostile monsters called composers to invade our world and cause major damage to the surrounding test site, forcing a full evacuation of the town and perforation suppression machines to be deployed to sever the connection to the dangerous Anteverse. As it is now, all we know about this Anteverse is its perpetual creation of a seemingly non-anomalous fog, which actually completely covers the Flathill town and later on the Cascade facility for short periods of time. This Anteverse also acts as the first discovery and interaction with the Puppeteer, which I won't go into too much detail in this video since I've spoken on him before, but basically he's an entity with the capability of creating life and crossing from Anteverse to Anteverse, so some pretty powerful stuff. The loss at the Crown facility is most certainly outweighed by the gain in the overall knowledge and future potential of perforation and Anteverse research, evident by the very next Anteverse discovered in our timeline, Anteverse II. Anteverse II is the most well-documented and, in my opinion, valuable Anteverse in the Gate catalog. This Anteverse alone probably has as much information and important overarching plot points than the rest of the Anteverses we've seen and will talk about in this video. For some clarification, in-game, the Anteverse has two separate portals leading to what scientists call Point A, the Far Gardens, and Point B, the Michael Fields. Both different regions of the same Anteverse, but with varying impact on gameplay, but undeniable equal importance to the lore. To begin, the Anteverse was first discovered by Dr. Lassiter. An initially small landmass is explored by Gate's Trans-Recon team, a specialized group of scientists and combat-trained staff who are suited for specific situations, venturing into potentially dangerous Anteverses, first formed after the Anteverse I fiasco. A sequence of important events happen in succession, and sets of alien creatures are discovered, first being the Peccary, named by Katie Pendleton, after a miscalculation in its size. Researchers return to the facility with said Peccary and realize its large size and increased hostility outside of its home Anteverse is caused by a substantial entropy difference of our world with Anteverse II, having lower entropy and in turn more efficient thermodynamics, an incredibly important and powerful discovery. Research begins on powerful power cells using low entropy energy from Anteverse II and sodium in tandem with the capture of a Peccary, later being deployed in Flathill. Much later on, a creature called Xers, after the planet X name initially given to the Anteverse II landmass, is discovered. An incredibly dangerous entity that researchers label as smart, but not yet recognized as intelligent. Their bioelectrical systems, or weapons, are incredibly powerful, being able to fry research equipment consistently. And at this point, the Planet X name given to the Anteverse II landmass is denounced, with Dr. Mance opting to have Lenora Riggs, the TR member that discovered Xers, to rename them X-Ors, and changing the landmass title to the Far Gardens. By this point, the discoveries in Anteverse II would undeniably be turning heads throughout the researchers at Gate, especially with the upgraded designation of Peccaries to Crucis, or High Risk, After nearly killing multiple TR members and solidifying the dangerous nature of these particular groups of subjects. Even more worrying, the evolution rate of Exors and their now recognized early evolutionary stages of the carbuncle, pest, and peccary is sped up to incredible speeds by the difference in entropy, with scientists witnessing as carbuncles evolve into pests, and pests evolve into peccaries, and finally into Exors. A terrifying implication for future study, as an unpredictably fast speed of evolution for such a dangerous creature is a pretty obvious threat to anyone. This risk is compounded by trans recon teams discovering a sort of village of Exors with a strange statue of some kind, all but confirming the human, or at least close to human intelligence of Exors. Regardless of the danger, a super valuable asset comes from the Exor anatomy, the introduction of handheld teleportation using Exor hearts, allowing scientists to create crude teleportation networks, which allow them to teleport by pressing a button on a handheld device. Mance later suggests Exors are perhaps non-native to Anteverse II, although he doesn't explicitly say why. But intelligence bordering sentience in an alien life form that seems to worship a powerful being is definitely a plausible explanation, especially after the discovery of the puppeteer. Moving on from the Far Gardens, Gate researchers discover what they believe to be a different Anteverse, but in reality is a completely different region of Anteverse II, a small landmass with an incredibly high temperature environment. It's so hot in fact, molten lava flows in rivers from island to island. The high temperature is revealed to be the landmass's distance to a sort of vacuum point at the center of the Anteverse itself, actively creating high gravitational tidal forces and increasing temperatures significantly. This region is shown to have evolutionary stages of the Exor present, although living in such harsh conditions where even the flora of the Far Gardens can't grow, causes a sharp turn in evolution, sprouting a new type of peccary and carbuncle, the mushroom peccary and the mushroom carbuncle. The introduction of new resources present here presumably allows the scientists at Gate to use Anteverse II's materials to create their esteemed dark lens, making their ventures into these next few Anteverses much easier. Interestingly, the perforations appearing on Earth for as long as 1 before Christ, already in Gate's records, scientists actually discover originate from Anteverse II. And note, there are other evolutionary stages of the Exor family I neglect to mention here because they frankly add nothing new to the importance of the Anteverse itself. I'll be covering those in my IS registry video. There is like zero mention on Anteverse III. All we really know is it was being explored by Lenora Riggs and her TR team before the game's events. Anteverse VII is the homeworld of IS-107, or the Time Bomb, an incredibly dangerous object that some scientists like Abe theorize could possibly be a bomb of some sort, designed to destroy our universe. It was first discovered in 200 BC. The only thing we know about this Anteverse is its incredibly large difference in time relativity with our universe, which can be observed directly in the Time Bomb, as it has been slowly growing in size by a tiny amount every year, with mathematicians calculating it could cover the entire galaxy in just 50,000 years. The source of this object and the reason it appeared on Earth so long ago is still unknown, but Gate can count itself as lucky, because whoever decided to drop this on our back porch didn't do their math right at all. Anteverse VIII is the origin Anteverse for our beloved and almighty Graph Cube! All you need to know. Although the reason for the Anteverse continuously teleporting Graph Cubes into the facility is still unknown. Anteverse XI is an infinitely expanding field of grass with an equally infinitely expanding railroad track running across it. This Anteverse houses the incredibly important IS-138, or the train, which researchers believe keeps the atomic force between atoms together with its perpetual motion, and stopping it could obliterate the Anteverse and a huge chunk of the Milky Way. Interestingly, the star and moon alignments in this Anteverse are identical to our own Earth, with Janet suggesting it's in a superpositioned location, basically being nowhere. The train was also repurposed by Gate into a mini laboratory. Anteverse XIII is the origin of IS-142, the reservoir growth, an incredibly powerful form of biomechanical data storage and computation, capable of reproducing into a sort of hive very quickly. Nothing else is mentioned about this Anteverse. Anteverse 19 is an interesting phenomenon. The Anteverse itself is accessed by sitting on IS-18, an anomalous red chair. Immediately upon sitting on the chair, you're transported to a liminalistic space, which you can probably recognize from the super popular back rooms. The walls, ceiling, and floor are textured in generic swimming pool tiling, with some water pools spaced around the entire Anteverse. When entering this Anteverse, you are effectively trapped with no escape unless you find the hidden buttons camouflaged with the same tiling texture hidden around the map, or have handheld teleportation devices on hand. This Anteverse also has the added danger of a large invisible creature present that becomes aggressive immediately after anything touches the pools of water. Anteverse 21 is the origin world of IS-111, or the Minder, a practically harmless entity. Anteverse 23 is a special case, even in the scope of infinity. This Anteverse is the first case of a sort of crossover of Anteverses. After an unfortunate malfunction of the Dark Lens during an expedition of Anteverse 19, a TR member is suddenly transported into a seemingly random Anteverse, very similar to Earth, humans and all, and unfortunately releases the pathogen into the general populace, ultimately causing an apocalyptic scenario. The research team dispatched to explore this new Anteverse discovers the point of entry, a high-end furniture store, is actually in the middle of what seems to be the city of Boston. Reporting their findings to Dr. Mance, he surmises that Anteverse 23 was possibly an alternate universe nearly identical to ours, which the unfortunate circumstances out of Gate's control resulted in its eventual destruction. Anteverse 24 is the origin world of Rocklarks, an entity which the co-worker, or more specifically the entity pretending to be your co-worker, originally shapeshifted as. Anteverse 33, the Flesh Dimension, is an ominous threat we have yet to get any more details on aside from the morsel of information about it being the source for Grayab seeds, a strange fruit made of multiple multicolored eyes which when ingested has the unpleasant side effect of attracting IS-091, or the Layak. If the correlation between the fruit and the Layak stems from both of them originating from this Anteverse, then the very possible reality of multiple Layak possibly existing is a huge problem. Anteverse 36 is the game's sort of sandbox world, simply a green field stretching out for infinity, which Gate researchers set up satellites at varying checkpoints, accessed by a large mirror in IS-855's containment cell. Anteverse 39 is an equally interesting and dangerous Anteverse for a multitude of reasons. To begin, Gate has yet to create a perforation into this Anteverse, with it being only accessible by being practically kidnapped by its host entity IS-059 the Reaper, or following it through one of the portals it creates when entering and leaving the facility, which in and of itself is a huge gamble, since you're risking simply being cut to shreds by a crazy dangerous predator or never being seen again after entering its Anteverse, like all prior research teams and gatekeeper squads. At its core, Anteverse 39 is simply a domain facilitated by IS-59, but for some strange reason, when different scientists gaze through active portals to Anteverse 39, each individual account of what they see varies wildly. Now, it might get a bit confusing here, but the leading theory is Anteverse 39 is a sort of mindscape that takes its physical shape by using the consciousness of the person that is currently experiencing it, as well as creating apparitions of people and objects our character sees throughout their journey of Cascade. Using this information, as well as the Inkfish's description, an argument can be made this space isn't even an Anteverse per se, but simply the Reaper's subjective pocket in space and time. Anteverse 42 is another great look into the spectrum of infinity. This universe has a vast size difference to our own, effectively being a macroverse, where a human would be relative to the size of an ultra-small microbe. This is directly seen with IS-121, the Tarrasque, which has been continuously growing from its miniature stature since its capture in Anteverse 42, with no signs of stopping anytime soon. There are two more Anteverses not yet given their numerical designation yet, or not being formally recognized as Anteverses, and I'll quickly go over them real quick. First is Some Distant Shore. It's an antiverse accessed by randomly being teleported after taking a seat on a portal toilet. A pink purplish island surrounded by a sea of feces, where a giant portal in the sky swirls around, constantly opening smaller portals, teleporting more feces. Ew. The second is the Infinite Library. The Infinite Library is a confusing situation. It's believed to be a failed artificial intelligence experiment that created an infinitely expansive subdimension containing a sort of library that has a mathematically infinite amount of a single book. I say mathematically since it's every possible variation of a book, effectively creating an entire antiverse of randomized books. The entry to this sort of antiverse was lost in 1985 and has been unrecoverable since. And that's pretty much everything. The game's lore is pretty much still in its infancy, yet the infinite playground the devs have to build it on with Anteverses has been pretty interesting thus far, and I'm definitely looking forwards to what they do with these awesome plot devices. Anyways, I've been Myriad, your favorite yapper, and have a good rest of your day or night. Bye bye.